Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in to another video from Gun Gamers. I have a very special guest. How about you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jet Desert Fox from Desert Fox Airsoft and Desert Fox Airsoft events.
Yeah. We are going to actually have a very fun conversation today. We're going to talk about how Jet got into event hosting and maybe some of the things that you can take away if you're looking to run games of your own. Start at the beginning. I know that you used to own an airsoft field, Desert Fox Airsoft Field, right?
Yep. So that's a piece of property that my family owns in Oro Grande, California. We still own it. In fact, as of right now, what is it? March 6th, 2023. I'm hoping to get my airsoft field back up and operational before the end of the year.
Hell yeah.
We had a very unfortunate circumstance a few weeks ago where I call it a renegade field, which is basically just some public land, like BLM land or off-highway vehicle riding area. That's where we used to all play airsoft, and the cops decided that the good times were over. There was no more airsoft to be had and gave everyone trespassing tickets. Okay, so we're out here at Rally Point. This is our local renegade public field out in OHV land, and the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department showed up and gave everybody, what is this, a trespassing ticket?
I don't know. Yeah,
some sort of ticket. Basically, this field is kind of dead now, so rip Rally Point.
Rip Rally Point.
Man, I feel like a lot of players of a certain age don't even remember when renegade fields were the only option for most players.
Yeah. I mean, they still kind of exist, but I think what a lot of people do is they just end up having a huge chunk of land that maybe they have themselves or have access to through another relative or family member or friends, and that's how I think most airsoft game goes down. And then everyone kind of graduates to okay, let's go to an actual organized field, and then hey, now there's big national level events, and so everyone kind of scales up from there.
Yeah, that was exactly my trajectory, is starting out like that. So it honestly sounds like very similar type of path to a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I started out. We had that land, like I said, in Oro Grande, and I was just like, hey, let's get people to come play on it. And I just invited all my buddies, and that's how we started.
Yeah.
At least that's how I started playing Airsoft, or one of the ways I started playing Airsoft.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much same with me. As one of my friends had some property outside of town. So what we would do is we all went to high school together, and we would just get everyone together who could go out and spend the weekend just camping out and playing airsoft. So that was I don't know if that would technically be a renegade field, but I guess technically backyard airsoft at that point. Yeah. So that's how you got started. How did you turn that into the legit Desert Fox Airsoft field?
All right, great question. So when I first started, we had that land, and I said, okay, well, I've got this piece of property. I like playing games, so maybe we can also make a little money on the side. I mean, I guess I would be... I know a lot of people get into it just for the hobby and doing other things. I was half hobbyist, half how can we turn this into a business, perhaps? And so the first event that I ever hosted was a night game.
Oh, man!
The hardest thing that you can host. We had about I think it was between 30 and 60 players show up, and at that point I had been running my field regularly for probably a couple months now, so I kind of knew what I was doing. I made a few not fatal errors, but I made a few errors. Number one, I offered food, so with your admission was food, and I learned I'm a terrible cook, and that also I hate doing food. So I've never done food ever again, ever since from that last event. The event went as well as it could go for myself and a buddy of mine running it. I would give the rules and kind of organize the games. He helped me with chrono, and we had one single chrono at the time, but
one chrono for how many players?
30 to 60, something like that.
I mean, that's still that still gets clogged up quick.
Right. And then one of the errors too was it's a night game, so we started checking everybody in around dusk, and then it got dark, and it was like, oh, we can't chrono anymore because the chrono radar can't pick the BBs up because there's no light. Like, okay, well, hopefully everyone's not shooting hot. Let's get this game going. But the game finished. Everyone, for the most part, had a good time. I think maybe there were one or two arguments, but like it's the normal
Airsoft.
Like, I hate you. No, you did it. Blah 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 blah. Like, okay, everyone just go to bed or something.
And that never goes away. So you started as you have to go on in some extent.
Yeah. But after that first event, I was like, okay, well, I mean, that was pretty simple. Let's try to do a daytime one now. And so I just started hosting more themed games, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger. I think the game that really helped catapult me into the more of the event organizer spotlight was Echo One Appreciation Day.
Okay.
And that was basically Echo One or Jack Precision approaching me through another store, evic.com. They weren't that big back then, though. This is like probably 2009, 2010, something like that.
The Coupon Wars.
Yeah, the Coupon Wars. Well, actually, no, this was after the Coupon. This was before the Coupon Wars.
Oh, yeah, I guess the Coupon Wars were kind of early 2010s.
Man, I actually have a video on the Coupon Wars.
Oh,
shit. This was during the arrival of all the Chinese clone guns.
Yeah.
Because Echo One was one of the first ones to get them. And so Echo One was like, hey, we want to have this. I didn't understand the name. That was their name, Echo One Appreciation. I was like, what do we all appreciate? Like, I don't
Appreciating Echo One.
I don't even own an Echo One. How am I supposed to appreciate this? But they're like, yeah, we want to do this game. Like, it seems like you're pretty confident about hosting games. So I said, okay, cool. We've got all these rules, or we've got all these scenarios laid out, and I think the first one got about 200 players, and I was ecstatic.
Nice.
Yeah, because I was like, wow, this is like one of the biggest games that I've done. And then from there, I just started hosting more and more to include more Echo One Appreciation Days, the Tim vs. Bob series from a very long time ago that some people still might remember.
I remember watching the videos on it as it was going on, but I'm obviously in upstate New York, so then it was just watching from afar while this whole fake drama obviously played out.
Yeah, that was actually one of the really one of the major driving factors to attendance of that game was the lore and all the video and media that GI would put out on their own. And that really engaged with a lot of people.
Well, people like having that lore. They like having that aspect of, like, even as early as we've started hosting games, we still have people who, like, at their second game were like, oh, bro, we're going to get those Goji bastards. They're already coming up with slurs for the fake countries.
Yeah, we do kind of the same at Desert Fox events.
Yeah.
I like to call, when I'm on TSS, I like to call ERT raspberries.
Ooh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. I didn't come up with any good creative slurs for TSS, sadly. But I did lean into being the war boss instead of the commander.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, well, the Corpo War thing, I think, is a really cool theme. So, obviously, talking about themed games, though, you started off helping out with a lot of that stuff and running a lot of that stuff. How did you eventually settle on, the iteration of event hosting that became Desert Fox events?
Man, this is kind of like the buildup of everything that I've been doing for the past past 20 years of Airsoft. I essentially, to put it like into a nutshell, I took everything that I liked and I didn't like about all the events that I had attended or had seen or been to across the globe, and try to just put it all into one game that was styled toward how I like to play. And I think that's kind of the most important aspect of Desert Fox Airsoft events is you're playing the game style that appeals to me, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is why we have like the class system. We've got different modes of fire for everybody. Like, I honestly think it's a little silly that full auto isn't allowed at more places. Just because it's inherently built into all the guns. So, restricting full auto is is like taking away a basic feature of the toy that you bought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do it for our rifleman class, but we do it in a sense that it's a balance to offset. Like, we've already got, full auto with SMG guys. The LMG guys can go full auto. So it's like, okay, if you want to do full auto, pick a different class. Maybe you'll find out that, SMG getting in super duper close and full and like engaging other people on full auto is not my jam. Maybe
you hate it.
Yeah, maybe you hate it. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna go back to rifleman or sniper or something else.
Yeah, but you built like a sandbox of all these different toys that you wanted to play with and thought about, now how do I just systemize putting that sandbox into action so that people can do that? And that's where a lot of the ideas with the app come in as well. But then with like the rule set building, you're talking about like balance, and that's an important thing I think for everyone to take away is, when you're running a game, you also have to be thinking about playing it.
Yeah. This weekend, I, as I'm watching everyone playing the game, I was getting kind of sad because it's like, man, everyone is having an amazing time.
Yeah.
I have to run this thing, but I mean that's good. I definitely needed to, because obviously no event is without problems. Like if you go to an event and everything is 100 copacetic, no problems at all, there are probably 2 people there.
Two? I don't know, man. I don't know if 2 airsoft.
Someone else.
I don't know if 2 airsofters even could get along at a game for that long.
You might not be wrong.
Yeah. Well, and that's also where, so much of the game is everyone's understanding in the game too, which is why, building those rule sets as well. Those rule sets are ultimately the tool that's used to be the game. Is everybody playing in the sandbox that those rule sets enable, and then running it that way. Which, like, this weekend I was running ERT at your game, obviously Battle for Los Angeles, which was a great time, in fact, especially for ERT. Congrats on the dub, boys. But one of the big things I was trying to reinforce to people too is like, people would come up and be like, my app isn't working or something like that. And I would literally just say to them, I'm like, all right, cool. The app is a tool, and it's a cool tool, and we're going to use it. But if it's not working, that doesn't mean you're not in the game. Like, the game is systemized with the app, but then the game itself is still the sandbox of the rule set that everyone's playing in.
Yeah. I like that a lot. That was really great, explaining it to them like that, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. It's a tool to help you just, okay, I want to play the objective. Where's the objective? Great. What's the overall score in the game? Cool, it's there. But I mean, like, if you already don't give a shit about that, then like, okay, just go play Airsoft, go rip around with your SMG, snipe some people. That was a great way to handle that, because unfortunately the app was not working as well this weekend, but first iteration with a brand new development team, so not much we can do. Yeah,
I still found it to be very useful, like command and control tool, but that honestly is a whole separate video of its own to talk about that, because that is something really cool. But how did the idea of app integration come about? How was that, where you decided to really lean into that direction?
I'm not sure exactly when I was like, it should be an app, but I just knew that, again, after going to a bunch of games, like, okay, most people like Conquest, because this is a mix of, for me, this is just a mix of Airsoft and Battlefield.
Yeah.
Battlefield's a very long-running video game that lots of people play. Like, that's the one of the few video games that I play regularly across all of them. Battlefield 1, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 5.
I was a huge Battlefield 3 fan. Then Battlefield 4 broke my heart, and I never went back.
Well, 2042 broke mine, and now I'm still mad about it, EA. I basically just took all of that and was like, okay, how do we take all of that and put it into Airsoft?
Yeah.
And at some point I realized that the choke point or the deficiency between video games and Airsoft was the dissemination of information.
Yep.
So that would include from the admin and how they want to host the game, and they're basically how they relay that information to the commanders or higher staff, and then trickles all the way down to riflemen. So how do we get everyone from the commander down to the rifleman to have that information?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, an app could do that. Like, we need something that we can give to the players physically But then you think of like that, and you're like, oh god, that's a humongous problem in itself because these things are going to get destroyed, they're going to be lost, and especially when you get into like the hundreds of players count. Like this weekend we had 800. We probably had like 850 people. How do we get 850 devices into their hands and then be like, this is how you use it, blah 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 blah. Okay, what do they already have on them? Oh, everyone's already got a cell phone on them. They already have the device. So okay, let's build an app that will give them all the information they need in the game, plus some other communication tools to hopefully keep enough people on the same page to keep the game running smoothly and the way that we want to run the game. One thing that a misconception about our event is that you have to use the app.
I was telling people,
it's a tool.
I was telling people that they're like, "Oh, do we have to use the app?" I'm like, it makes the game better because then you can like capture points and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, if you don't want to use the app, there's still a game going on.
Yeah, you're still gonna play Airsoft. In fact, I think people played so much Airsoft this weekend that they got sick of it because we had
a bunch of rogue players telling everyone the game was over 30 minutes before it was over. And I'm literally telling people, like, guys, the game's not over. They're like, no, ref just told me the game's over. I'm like, dude, I'm in the staff chat with everybody with decision making power, and they're saying the game's not over.
I mean, and there was a hard limit set in the itinerary too, and we told everybody before the weekend, like, we're gonna stick to the set times on like when we're gonna go. So the night game was a perfect example. We said we were going from 7 to 10 p.m. and I stood at the entry point to the field the whole night, and by about 9 o'clock, people were like, "I'm going back to the staging area. I've had enough night game and cold."
Well,
you still got 2 hours, man. Like you better just use it. I see you got nods on. Like you rented that. No, I'm good. I'm done. Okay.
The amount of money people will throw away on night vision rentals that they don't use is amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess the same for people who buy night vision and don't use it, or worse. But so the app really became that central point of contact then as the concept. Yeah, and that's a very ambitious idea because traditionally with Airsoft, as we know, like you would run that type of stuff with radios and with commanders and a whole staff chain of command and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean that's what we do at our games because we don't have an app. But.
I mean, not to offend anybody who's still on that train and stuff, but like it's kind of antiquated technology if you think about it. Well, maybe not antiquated, but just. We're kind of limiting ourselves to like this World War II level of communication. Yeah. And it's like, well, we could do better. It's funny that we don't see more like Bluetooth assisted communication devices, with your cell phone used.
Yeah. Honestly, that would be, a pretty good idea. I guess a large part of it is still because like so many of the milsim games that are like hardcore go out to facilities that type of technology is still not proliferated with a lot of the signal, but it's absolutely, I mean, that's the wave that's going to come, things like ATAC and Blue Force trackers. Yep. So it's a very natural progression, but it is interesting that really you guys were the spearhead of that. Like you were pretty ahead of the curve.
I think so. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I know there's other people out there working on apps and other ways to integrate technology in Airsoft, but I think I know for us, we're doing it on the largest scale. Like High Ground Airsoft in Houston, Texas, with the EVIC outpost, they have a system called Skirmesh.
I've heard about that, yeah.
And again, it relies on a device. So everyone gets issued a wristband, and then there's modules all over the field, and then you have to scan them, which is kind of neat, but like it's a little hard in an indoor field where everything's moving really, really, really fast. Yeah. And then so if we try to scale that up too, that would be difficult on our end as admin because now we've got to get Wi-Fi.
And you have to manage those props.
Yeah, or connectivity throughout the field. And then I think the biggest thing for me would be getting 1,000 wristbands ordered in time and they work correctly,
and then getting people extra wristbands when they inevitably lose them.
And I mean that's just going to increase the cost too of the game. Because obviously all right, sure, the average ticket cost is about $150, but I think we probably have to add on another 50 or so for the wristband itself. So
yeah,
and then it's, I don't know. It just seems like a big hassle.
Well, it's an extra layer of intricacy that seems redundant when you have like the functionality you guys are shooting for with like the Blue Fox Tracker app.
Right.
Because you don't need to scan a wristband to say that you're capturing a point. You can just have your GPS tagged location on the point and then say that you've got the point.
Yeah, you literally just have to stand there.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is the wristband is also a little limiting, because that's it. All you can do is just do that.
Yep.
You can't see the score.
Because it's just basic RFID as opposed to like an app with Bluetooth and everything.
Right. With the app, you can see the score. You can see everybody else. I think that's the biggest. That is the key factor for me, is being able to see everyone. Because from that information, you can kind of extrapolate a game plan if you're savvy enough.
That's it, and that's exactly what I was doing. I would just look and I'd be like, okay, I see friendlies in these areas. I don't see friendlies in these areas. I see this control point is being fought over. Now I'm back at the spawn, or I'm with a group of guys, and I can just rally them up and be like, hey, who's ready to go in 2 minutes, and we're going to go do this thing, and it's going to be super fun and crazy, and it's really easy to motivate airsofters that way. Yeah, when you can show them that level of a game plan. And that's where I also maintain that like the app is like the way to systemize that stuff and disseminate it to as many players as possible. But then there's just, at the end of the day, it's also no replacement for coming in, knowing the systems and being familiar with them, and then being ready to apply those tools in a sandbox rather than just expect like, I don't know, I guess kind of it to be handed to you, which is a weird way to say it. But it definitely rewards a deeper level of engagement with the game when you actually use the tools intelligently.
Right.
Now, one of the things I find really fascinating about Desert Fox events is the theming of the Corpo War thing. And I think we need to see more getting leaned into on that. How did that come about as an idea?
Yeah, I definitely need to lean into it more. Like, I wish we could get to the level of lore and media that we did with Timbers Bob within the Desert Fox Corpo War universe. But the reason I picked the Corpo War is because it just kind of seemed like countries are going to come and go. Also, like, having a country might offend some people.
Yeah,
and we're trying to be able to reach a broad audience. So I don't want it to be like, it's Brazil versus the UK or something.
Or America Civil War again, because that hasn't been done enough for Airsoft.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Part of me, I mean, that might even attract the wrong audience. Who knows?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So just, I think keeping it to this very imaginary Corpo War is great, because I mean there's a bunch of memes in there too, like you're talking about having employees of the month.
Oh, employee of the month was Bubbles. We know this.
Yeah, so that's pretty much why I leaned into the corporation side of it, because it's just a little bit more PC, and we can get really crazy with it too.
Well, yeah, and you can build. You're not restrained by the limitations of trying to be realistic too. You're able to build your own universe. Yeah. What would you say are the future plans for iterations of Desert Fox events, if you're comfortable sharing, any super secrets?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're going to be developing the app to do a lot more than just showing objectives. There's, like we talked about, maybe putting bounties on people, or at least giving other pinging location of certain objectives too. One of the major things that I want to get done or have done in a version very soon is the augmented reality within the app. So what that would enable you to do is to hold your phone up, and then you can use it as a navigation tool to orient yourself towards an objective, because then you'll just be able to see it, kind of like Pokemon Go. As
opposed to having to be like, okay, which direction is from my dot to this dot?
Yeah, and then doing the spin around hokey pokey, which a lot of us do. I mean, I do it too sometimes.
Oh yeah, no lie. I totally did that a few times this weekend.
Yeah, so being able to just be like, oh, okay, I can see the objective, let's go this way. And then also within that too, offering kind of, I guess we'll call it a third party strike on an area. So one of the things that I would like to do would be like an orbital type strike. So start to finish, or here would be my step-by-step vision of how the augmented reality strike would work. Is your team would gain access to the strike by means of an objective or holding a certain point or something, and then your commander or somebody has the ability to call it down. It comes down in an area. All the enemy players in that area will receive a notification via their app if they are using it to leave the area or strike imminent. And everyone just goes, oh my god, we got to get out of here. They all scatter to the winds. And then with the augmented reality, you as all the players can then watch the orbital strike come down and
that's kind of neat.
Yeah, decimate that area. I mean, obviously, all the buildings and stuff will still be there, but you get a nice little cool show. It's like a cutscene. You get your own cutscene.
Yeah, you get like a set piece event that happens, and it's memorable. We do something with a pretty kind of jank real life prop that's like a remote detonation system for fireworks. We hook up smoke grenades and firecrackers to it. And then when those go off, it's like a black smoke cloud that or black or white, and it's very distinctive. And it's like, oh, that's an arty strike.
Yeah.
But this is a more technological way to integrate it with a tool that you're already trying to incentivize players to use as well.
Right. And I would love to be able to do smoke and pyro effects. But
Victorville, no way.
Unfortunately, I live in California, and everything here is fuel for the upcoming summer fires. Pyro is a no-go. I will say that in the past, not to say that I don't like pyro. In the past, I have.
Of course.
Yeah, everyone loves using pyro, but we just can't, unfortunately, here.
Yeah, but. So that's one. Is that like the next big thing that you think is going to be the next phase? What about future games? Like what? Any upcoming games you want to discuss or not yet?
No. I mean, we've already tinkered with a bunch of other game modes. One of the other game modes that I would love to offer within the app is basically Rush or a breakthrough style type game where you must capture certain points in order. So you've got to take Alpha before you can take Bravo. So that way it's not just this moving around. It also just kind of coalesces all of the action into one space, which gets really nuts and is really fun as a player because everyone's on the same page. They've got to defend or attack, and it's great. It's great. We've already tested it.
It makes the field feel that much more dynamic because you already did this at the game this weekend, but even just flipping spawns and shit like that can make it where now the field feels a bit new, and now you're getting the most mileage out of a facility as well for a player experience.
Right. Also, too, we don't have to pick up and move physical things.
Yeah.
Either it's not the command center is not this giant command tent that we got to be okay, we got to pick this up and move it over here now. We're able to just go, okay, look. Let's play it like this now, or let's put these guys here and these guys here. It just makes it makes it more dynamic without having to sacrifice time and resource to do other nonsense.
It's funny how similar that concept is, but different in execution to our mobile respawn system because we want the ability to do the same thing where it's all right, cool. Let's set up the next phase of operations here. We'll have the mobile respawns that we can move, but we put it as a system physically where then those can be destroyed or whatever. But it's the concept is the same, and it's funny how the game design concepts still apply no matter what medium you're putting them through.
Yeah. And one thing I want to put out there too is we're not trying to take over, with the app. It's not I'm trying to make this be the end all be all. There are people that are going to want to do physical objectives, physical flags, and stuff like that, and that's great. If that's how you want to play Airsoft or how you want to make your game, by all means. Yeah. We are just another flavor at the Baskin Robbins.
Well, and that's
of Airsoft.
Yeah. And that's what I appreciate is I appreciate seeing such a refreshing take on trying to systemize the game because that's something that a lot of people have just been doing the same thing for a long time and trying to find new ways to create new genres of the game almost. I mean, I a lot of airsofters tend to call everything more organized than a day game a milsim. Yeah. Well, if you look at the difference between Desert Fox events, Gun Gamers Productions, Milsim West, American Milsim, all these other promoters, they're all going to fit very different experiences. None of them are the same game, but a lot of people call them the same thing. And I think there's a need to like break into more identifiable types of games so that players have more variety and more options.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like the way you're going with it. I have a lot of fun playing at your format with the tools that you give us. So,
thanks.
Thank you again for inviting me out.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you for hopping on this video. This has been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have any closing thoughts you'd like to give before we tune our audience out.
Maybe some advice for people who are thinking about getting into event organization or event hosting. Number one, make sure you have insurance.
Yeah.
You definitely need
And don't
insurance.
cancel the insurance right before you're supposed to host your game.
Make sure you've got insurance. Just all your paperwork is in order. You know, if you're renting a property, make sure you've got the rental agreements, all that stuff. A lot of people tend to forget about the legal aspect or side of event hosting and just want to jump straight into the airsoft, my hobby section. Like, nope. Tie up all the ends legally.
Yeah.
Then you can concentrate on the airsoft side. Don't skimp on staffing. Staffing is very hard. Staffing is very crucial to your game. Another part too is logistics of just how you're going to move everybody. I think that's another very, very overlooked aspect of airsoft. If you've got, we'll take that prison game for instance. The one that I forget what it's called. It's not a John.
The Brushy prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Brushy. So Brushy had, I don't know, I think it was like 600 people came out to that game, and there was one single chrono for everybody. So yeah, a little rough if you're trying to. I doubt a lot of people chrono, but you know that's another thing that's overlooked. Is like, okay, you've got this many people, you better streamline the chrono, check in. How people are identified on the field.
Yeah,
uniforms.
how you're marking things. Marking parking is like a huge thing too.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we all go through troubles, you know, and it's always going to be a learning experience. You know, we learned a lot of lessons this weekend at Battle for Los Angeles that you would think this is the fifth one, we would have all the answers, but we don't. There's always constantly a problem with something.
Well, and I think that is the most important lesson that anybody should take away, not just for like airsoft hosting, for anything they want to do well. Your processes and systems should always be under review. You should always be looking at what worked, what didn't, what problems did we have, how can we address them, and you know, at the end of the day, it's airsoft. You know, there's gonna be problems, but no problem is insurmountable with intelligent planning. So I think that's such an important thing to focus on, is the legal aspect and the logistical aspect. And, you know, the staffing aspect is very important too. That's why we've been trying to kind of use the model we've seen works really well. Like, oh, wait a minute, when you pay staff and like give them a place to sleep and like give them food and stuff, that tends to make them more motivated and happy to like put on a friendly face for customers.
Yeah.
And from like, you know, my perspective, you've been great to work for. So
great.
10 out of 10. But yeah, I think that's a good note to send us off on.
Okay.
So again, thank you so much for hopping in on this.
Yeah, no problem.
Where can everybody find you in case they don't know who you are?
All right, so very long list. You can find me on YouTube. You can just type in Desert Fox Airsoft. Facebook is The Desert Fox. Instagram is The Desert Fox. That's THEE Desert Fox. And I think that's it. If you'd like to attend a Desert Fox Airsoft event, you can check out the website, desertfoxevents.com. Or you can check out our Facebook and social media and Instagram and other social medias at Desert Fox Events.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for hopping on, Jet. And I've been Eric from Gun Gamers. You're watching this on my channel, so I hope you've put that together by now. And we will see you all in the next video. Peace.